and coach come up, but those little alpacas and spring views and stuff are just like a carpet.
They had a bad frost this year.
Red buds is just now beginning to show a little bit of color. Of course, it is just full blown. I mean, it's just beautiful. My peach trees are blooming. Cross our fingers, hope we don't have a late frost.
Let's go, you cutting into my supper time. Hey, we're on the clock now, bro. We're on the ratepayers dying.
Camera rolling.
Water board, take water.
In my room.
So glad to see you.
I'm glad to see you.
In my age, I'm just glad to be seen at all. You ain't seen nothing but
What's your statement? Just come, let's try to get over. Excuse me.
and cost all that.
Insurance agents.
Yeah. Well, engineers are about the same thing. No.
Something because of the
Term of endearment. Couple of my big friends. Attorneys and engineers. Of course, they don't think much of me.
You want to go today?
We survived another day. Might run again tomorrow.
I'm sure that means a lot.
I know you hope so.
They were all vertical when I left.
Making up money to buy the tire.
All right. Too much opportunity, not enough motivated people want to work.
Wonder why.
I had no idea when I figured out I'm not one. The banks in town over tell me I better take my work every day.
That is a high motivator.
Sure is.
Well, so far as nobody's joined on Zoom, it hasn't asked to admit anybody, so.
Camera's adding about 50 pounds over here.
It added, but we already had that conversation about me. I'm gonna have to go on diet, like that to be on this camera board. We heard anything from Heather?
Yeah, she said she was on her way. I'm trying to give her 5 minutes, so. Let's give her 2 more and then we'll keep this thing around.
Somebody smarter than me show me how to delete a note when I make a note. How do you delete?
You gotta go outside of it.
Huh?
Go out and.
Does it show a window pane?
How do I delete it?
It is iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Go back out of here.
Okay.
Which one was it?
Oh. I don't think it's anything.
It's gotta be inside of the heading.
I guess it's this one up here.
And then just slide over.
Just like you're gonna get rid of it. That says it's can
Go the other way.
The other way.
go that way.
Yes, sir.
There. See.
Yes.
Let's see. I need to get rid of that. Melinda, Sweet 160. Maybe I need to keep that one. Who was Melinda for Sweet 160?
You have to ask, you don't
You had,
know.
yeah. You had asked. I think you asked the right one over here.
Am I dreaming again or something? I don't know. I have no idea. I swear.
I think that's one of those stories about waking up with no kidney start, something like that.
Yeah. What town are you?
Sweet
That
one.
one I remember, that one I remember, that one I remember. That one. You got a clue.
Go ahead and get the show on the road. Maybe Heather will join us in just a few minutes, but the minutes can reflect everyone here present tonight. I think we do have a quorum, so. Off to our minutes. Minutes were provided. Hope everyone has had a chance to review them. Anyone see any corrections or changes that need to be made? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Got a motion, Tyler,
I'll second.
second by Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those passed. Financial reports, they were also provided to you. Did anything jump out to anyone that you need to go over, talk about?
Hey, Tommy, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, can I,
Yeah, sure.
on here, it should be, line item should be 331-1, it's to make repair of city vehicles. I think we appropriated $10,948, and year-to-date expenditure $21,742. Was just more maintenance than we anticipated, or we have an issue with one of the vehicles that,
We've had a lot of maintenance on our dump truck.
okay,
We just spent $1,000 on a brake system
Alright.
today.
On the new one?
No, the older one. No,
Man, you thought you wanted to, please.
no, the older one. The older one. Now we've had other maintenance on it. It had the slack adjuster frozen on it, and it had something about the some blocks, air was blowing through on the blocks, and they had to replace them,
Who did that?
making these.
And also like the lights and stuff, the extras that we put on the new trucks.
Yeah,
the
and
art
we've
stance,
added stuff on the new truck too,
The radio and lights and
radios,
stuff.
lights, all that goes in there that we put in there. They,
That just. I'm sure they're all right, but it just sounds a little steep on that breakdown.
well, I'll get you the quotes you look at. You
I
may,
just, man, we run so many, and I take advantage of Craig every chance we get. In all seriousness, man, I hate to see people overpaying.
okay.
Do we need to move money into that account? Go over budget? You know?
I don't think we did it on this enterprise fund. It's not required.
Okay.
I think as long as there's funds in
As
the
long as you have
total
a
budget.
fund balance is positive, you're fine.
As long as you're under the total.
Yeah, we do the same thing on the county side. Like you might have one, I call it an option code, but everybody else calls it a line item. It might be over at the end of the year. That's what the end of the year cleanups are. We might move them from one to the other, but as long as the function itself is covered, we're okay.
Any other discussion?
I was just kidding about taking advantage.
Actually, I don't know, when I come down to buy them stuff, they pay rates. So I feel you paying over that time. I just have to do a great job myself, so. So, hearing nothing else, motion to approve.
Motion to approve the financials. Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Approved. Water loss.
What's we got again? We know we got another leak on the Suffolk College side. We've been looking for it. It's not on the range of the new zone meter we put in. The zone meter caught the last one, but we may try to install one on the upper pump up there where we can keep up with it there sometime. But we started looking today trying to find it. And last time we had one again about a month ago, and it's a customer meter that was running. I forget how many gallons it was, but one customer meter caused all that. So, a lot of it.
Maybe some of all this will catch up with us. We'll get a good month coming, right?
Yeah, I would like to.
Anticipate.
Probably, yeah, we can find it, it'll slow, because we learned about that last time we talked about this when it happened the first time, you know, I guess we always assumed that pump was just undersized, and when we fixed those leaks that time, it went down to about 10, 12 hours a day, so it was running 24 hours a day. But we found out it wasn't undersized, it was just pumping that much water, so we know to watch it now, that if it gets going, that we got problems, so. It's not a pump issue, it's a leak somewhere. So we start looking. We don't have a, technically, we could put another zone meter in there and we might do that ourselves and monitor it. But there is an old box up there, I just don't know if it's plumbed correctly in the right pattern. We might throw a meter in that old box and get it to function that way. We're gonna look at that.
Brianna.
This leak that we had up here on 25, how much do you think it was leaking.
It probably, it could have been leaking a long time, just got worse over time. But it was probably doing 20 gallon a minute when we got to it up there.
Well, that's pretty substantial. if that one's-
But it wasn't on that tank.
No, I know,
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that on these figures.
Yeah, that'll help too.
Yeah.
It'll cut, that was on the Halltown tank. And we should see a little break on it, filling up and down some.
Heard nothing but good things about the boys and repairs on that tank. So,
Yeah, I'd like to say that I did too. I had a phone call, very complimentary of how hard they worked and how diligent they worked and trying to find everything. And, I want to pass that on to everybody.
exactly how knowledgeable they were on knowing what to do, when to do it.
We all got the same phone call.
Probably from the same person.
I'm the same person probably, but hey, if it was, I'm glad we got it, because it's usually the other way around.
Well, no, just, I mean, it was sincere and I was gonna mention it either at the end of the meeting or
It was
now.
definitely sincere. And that's what I'm saying. You usually hear the negative and hardly ever hear the positive.
It's not just a phone call, man, just even people just around town talking about, you know, the water department guys in particular, you know, out working, visibly working. And I mean, not just killing time, I mean, people know they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that it just, it looks good on the department.
Any other discussion on water loss? Moving on to the Apprentice Program. We got it set up with Mr. Kevin Bird, and he's here to talk with us and question and answer for so.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. I'll be brief, and I just want to come down and discuss our program and do it, like, as you said, a question and answer session briefly. I was told that I got Tommy and the mayor several months ago, our information, and you guys maybe had a chance to look at it, but it's a really involved document. And so what I'd like to do is maybe just put it in layman's terms and explain our program a little simpler than that document that we sent to DOL for approval. We have a program where we are training water and wastewater facility operators. It takes about 24 months. If there's an incumbent employee, somebody that's already working for you, it could be a little bit less based on how long they've been with you. We combine on-the-job training, so they'd be required to do 4,000 hours of on-the-job training, which if it's a new hire, that's new experience for them. But if it's an incumbent worker, they're already there and they're already working for you. So that could be an expense saving unless you're looking for a new hire, but we can accommodate either one. The program also has about 318 coursework hours. It's about 21 courses that they would take with our association, TAUD, who provides an array of certification coursework throughout the year for different certifications, distribution, collection, grade 1, 2, and 3, facility operation. And we're preparing folks for the test at Fleming to be certified operators. The reason for our existence is there's a shortage of operators that's occurring across the state of Tennessee, really in the entire country. These guys are aging out and retiring, and we have not done a good job in the industry of focusing on young people and educating them about careers in the water industry. So we're kind of doing that as well. So we want to train future operators, and we also want to get the word out about the need. Additionally, we want to capture the institutional knowledge from the guys that are retiring before they retire. You know, and you guys know that scenario. You know, you can't have a better teacher than experience. So we don't want to lose that. We want to capture that before it's gone. But it's a really neat program. It's really intensive. It's more intensive than any of our certification programs. We would have you choose what discipline you want, water or wastewater, but this person after the 24-month program would be prepared to sit for one of those, but nearly prepared to sit for the other. And so what we're doing is producing a guy that can kind of speak both languages. And that fits perfectly in rural areas and small facilities where sometimes, you know, the budgets don't allow for lots of personnel on site. So this gives a guy the flexibility to move within the water department from wastewater to water and have a knowledge of it. It's a really neat program. It's a service provided by TAUD, relatively inexpensive, but there are some costs associated with it. But I don't want you to think I'm here trying to sell you on something. This is a service that we provide along with an array of stuff that TAUD does. And this is just another one of those. We want to present it to you, especially if you have a need. We want to help you get it started. I would be the coordinator, so I'd be the guy monitoring it, and I'd be working closely with your current operators. And it'd be a way, you know, looking toward the future of the community and the protection of your water facilities and your wastewater facilities. Good program. I can answer all, you know, whatever questions you have. Financially, the 2-year program costs about $5,000 worth of coursework, about $2,500 a year. You can't go to a community college or a TCAT and get in a program that inexpensive. So it's really not about the money. That said, the coursework has really been designed specifically for these guys. We have an education department in our facility. Tommy probably knows Brent Ogles, who created our curriculum, and DOL approved it. And I'm on tour now statewide, talking to rural facilities and getting people signed up. We have 5 facilities across the state, 7 apprentices since we've been started. We started the 1st of October. So we're relatively new, and we got some folks. The closest people here are Bell Buckle and War Trace. They have 2. Bell Buckle has 1, War Trace has 2. I've been talking to Tommy for several months and would love to get you guys in that loop. Have one up in East Tennessee at Huntsville, and have folks out in Alamo and Adamsville in West Tennessee. So you can tell these are real small communities. They're serving 10,000 customers or less. But it's really good, a really neat service. And we're really excited about it. So far, so good. We're the 29th state in the country to have one of these programs. They're very rare right now, but it's growing, and it's really driven by the need. So that's kind of my little spiel. You guys have the standards, and that's really where all the information is. But if you have just some general questions, I'd love to answer them. And make you feel at ease. And again, I don't want you to feel rushed either. There is no timeline on this. We're not having to meet any kind of deadlines. So you got to be comfortable with it. And that's our goal. We don't want to push anything on. Be comfortable with it. We'll take as much time as we need, answer every question before we ink anything. Okay.
Is this program just starting?
Just started. We started.
Hadn't graduated any just yet, right?
I haven't graduated anyone just yet. The kid in Bell Buckle was our first, and he came on in December, just after we got registered. And he has the most hours, and he had a few hours, but he's over 1,000 hours right now, and working hard. For cost savings, if it's a new employee, it has a graduated pay scale based on performance. The top end that you guys would have to agree to is that when this person graduates or finishes the program in 2 years and has successfully completed their certification, they would be employed here at $17 an hour. However, it doesn't start that high. The first 1,000 hours would be 65% of that. The second 1,000 would be 70, 80, 90, and then graduating at 17. Most of the folks that I'm working with right now actually are slightly or at that or above that, so it doesn't become an issue for them. But that's something I want to say out, up front. The financials are what's important. The coursework is not the responsibility of the facility or the town. It is the responsibility of the apprentice, and I would make that clear. However, I don't have a facility that's of my 7 yet where the facility didn't provide the training. They have training budgets, not huge ones, but they have training budgets. And they want to do that for this guy, and it's really a win-win for everyone. As a result of that, though, I have a couple that are going to ask their apprentice to sign an agreement to stay on for X amount of years, and I've got a document that our legal department just finished that I could share with you.
That was one of our big questions.
Absolutely. I mean, we
Retain
don't-
on the investment, yeah.
I think it's a great question. It's not mandated in our program, but it's not restricted either. I think it's a great idea. Because you guys are probably familiar, and it's probably happened. You've got a guy, you got trained, and next thing you know, we go someplace, yeah.
Happens a lot with our sheriff's department.
Oh, I've heard that over and over with law enforcement. Heard it yesterday, actually, had a conversation about that.
You said 30 disciplines, 30 certifications, is that, what did you say, or curriculum or?
The curriculum, about 21 courses. The
Okay.
certifications would be multiple, and it would be depending upon which program they're in, but we would have this guy get a distribution certification, which is on the water side.
That's why I was gonna ask you, what are some of them?
Okay, yeah, distribution certification, whatever grade you guys are, we would get him prepared to sit for that. We can't go beyond that, but to be honest with you, once he finishes the coursework, he should be prepared to go all the way to a grade 4 exam and be successful. Of course, you got to be a grade 4 facility before you can sit for that kind of exam.
Or you have to work somewhere for 5
Have to work place for 5 years, have a degree maybe. They would also be cross connection certified, which is kind of an industry on its own, a great certification to have. Flagger is required. We would do some safety, OSHA, TOSHA stuff, and some safety CPR, AED kind of stuff. You know, some minor stuff, but really growing into some significant certifications once they get that grade level. How are you guys? Excuse me.
grade 3 water.
Oh, okay, perfect. I mean, he would, and in that time, in that 24 months, he would have been here a year, which is also required before he can sit for the exam. So the timing is perfect. Additionally, I don't know how much you guys know about this. Tommy would be familiar. There's an organization that a for-profit company that does the testing currently in Tennessee. And it's been a really difficult time since they've been on board. They are going away in 2022. The state is taking that back over. Fleming will still be the site that will administer the test, but the state of Tennessee is now taking that testing over, and we think we're going to have a little more success rate. We don't think it's going to be easier, but we do think the structure and the amount of questions that they ask are going to change things. So we're excited about that as well. And the timing is perfect for the apprenticeship for success.
I actually took part in one of those questionnaires about
Did
how
you?
to develop the test.
Yeah.
They asked operators, what do you think you need to see on these tests? So they sent that out to operators. I participated in one of those surveys.
Well, nobody better to ask stuff like that than operators. I don't think ABC did that. As far as expenses go, that 5,000, there potentially could be travel over to Murfreesboro at our training station for coursework, and that's kind of a decision that you guys would make. We've got everything on webinar now, which is great. So we're doing things webinar and in person. If they go in person and they do a fundamentals class, that's a week, that's every day. And I don't know what, well, commute from here for an hour. That's not
We've
terrible.
actually, our employees done one webinar here.
Oh, really?
Distribution.
Well, how did they do?
They did fine.
And that was our concern, how the webinars, how successful are they? And I've had some of both. I had last month, the 2 beginners did fundamentals. One went to the training station, one webinar, and they were both successful. So we're confident in our webinars as well. But there is that fee, that little bit of travel fee that I wouldn't want you to be surprised about if that were to happen. You guys not as much as out west when they have to come so far.
What happens if somebody enrolls in this and 6 months into it, they quit?
Yeah, and it's going to happen.
Are they getting anything out of it? I mean, are they meeting certifications along
Yes.
the way, or is it
Yes.
all or none type?
No, they would not, any certification they gained along that way, they would retain, and they are graduated throughout the 24 months. But at the end of the first year, we would be looking for that guy to, possibly be distribution collection and ready to go sit for grade. You would probably bump straight to grade 3 with me. I don't know what advice you give them, but
Yeah.
we have guys that
They
do that.
our grade.
You can do a 1, a 2, and a 3 and have those, but you don't have to. You can go straight to 3 if you're at a 3. And I would lean on Tommy, who would be a mentor to this guy. And I would sit down with Tommy and we have work processes that we want them to go over while they're actually working for you guys, while they're on the job. What I'm finding though is everything that we've talked about having them see, they kind of see. They do it. It's happening every day. So that's not been difficult as well. They'll log those hours. We have an app on their phone and they can log their hours daily. So we keep up with the 4,000 hours. And then I'll log their certifications and their coursework as that goes along. And Tommy will monitor them daily. I'll come down once a month. We'll do an evaluation. And always would be, available for you guys to ask questions or, get reports, whatever you might need. Yes, sir.
You said you had 7 in the program now?
I have 7 in the program now.
Okay, have you had more and any quit? Or
Have
all
any-
7 went in and stayed?
All 7 have gone in and stayed in so far. Of course, we're still early on. We're still, in the first 6 months of those guys, and have lots of interest. I'm headed to Piperton and Oakland out in West and Lexington. Have a lot of interest in West Tennessee. Those guys are all, really, really close, we think. And we're growing, but I like that we're kind of going in baby steps. And I might even advise that here. If you wanted to wait a few months and see how these guys do, that's not a bad strategy either. I wouldn't argue with that at all and see how they're doing and, kind of monitor them. But now to answer your question, they can leave the program. We don't, there's no penalty on our end, or the city or the facility can pull out of the program if they're not satisfied as well.
How have other organizations done the screening on the front end? Is it just a free for all? Any employee or any of the guys in the field can just kind of sign up?
Well, when I talk to them, I say, let's first be, kind of set a guy up for success. Let's pick a guy that we think's wanting to do this, and motivated to do it. And then let's try to target a guy that has the ability to do it. It's a very STEM oriented coursework. And Tommy can speak to our coursework. It's not horribly difficult, but there's a practical math for distribution, practical math for wastewater, practical math for water treatment. And so there is some math, formula oriented math that's involved. What do you think about that?
Basic, they have to be decent with basic algebra.
Yeah.
Especially if you're gonna be water, you gotta be good with mathematics and good with some science too. It's
Absolutely, definitely. Water chemistry.
Water chemistry, you have to learn basic water chemistry.
So, we would want to recruit a guy that was motivated to do that, but it's going to be an add-on for him. Something else that Tommy's aware of, I want to make you aware of, when they're doing this coursework, you'll be gone. So you want to think about how to cover that guy when he's not on site. Now, if it's a webinar, I've suggested that they come on site, get the laptop or computer and, do it right there on site, because somehow that feels like you're in a classroom or you're on the job at least. They're in maybe a little more attention oriented. But everybody kind of looks a little bit different. I don't have a single new hire. Every person that I have right now is an incumbent, the guy that's existing. But these guys call me and they'll say, well, we've had this guy in mind for some time. And then we heard about this and now, a timing track. But I would encourage a new hire. We'd love to get some females in the industry. That's, horribly underrepresented in the water industry on the females. We'd love to get them interested. If we were to do something here in Hartsville, I'd love to get with, and you guys could connect me to the school system, maybe do a pre-apprenticeship inside the school, maybe grow some folks through, that's a little bit younger, along the way, and kind of, set up a little program where you're never going to have to face that. But it's really crazy how many folks are facing it right now. Gosh, I got a guy yesterday called me and he's 63 and there's another guy that works with him and he's 78. And they think it's time to start growing somebody. And I agree with them 100%. So that's not uncommon. I'm going to shut up. I feel like I've been talking too much and I apologize.
Not at all. You've answered all my questions.
Wonderful. That's what I'm here for. I just want you to be comfortable. I don't want you to feel any pressure at all about this program. If it's a good fit, let's do it. And if it's not, let's don't. That's the way we want to approach this.
So the cost commitments we would need to look at are a quick breakdown, the 25 for a single guy, or
about 2,500 a year.
25, that's for
Um,
course.
not
work
up
stuff,
front.
right?
That's for the coursework, yes, not up front, that's for pay as you go.
As you go, but
Yeah.
we'd also have to consider travel. I think you mentioned if there is travel,
Yes.
loss hour, I assume we pay them if they're doing.
We
what
don't
they're
have
doing.
we don't make you agree to
Yeah,
anything.
we
We
pay
have
them
to.
now.
We'd have to. pay them,
Everyone
so
does. Yeah.
For a big picture, it's a little bit more than 2,500 a man or lady.
Absolutely,
There's
yes.
a little bit
Yes.
soft cost to consider on it.
I will add this with no promises whatsoever, but I will approach, over here, the north of, I'm sorry, Northern Middle Workforce Development Board. Is that right? Northern Middle, there are 9 across the state. Each one of these workforce development boards have a budget for workforce development. And part of that is usually apprenticeship. Some have incumbent worker grants and some have on-the-job training grants. I will solicit from them on your all's behalf, all 3 of those. It's a kind of a first come, first served budget, I'm finding out. Each 9 areas set their own budget, so I don't have consistency to be able to go from place to place and say, hey, this is how it's done everywhere. So I'm kind of learning that, but there is potential to recoup some of that training.
Through a grant through the workforce
grant.
development. Okay.
Yes, I secured, it wasn't a lot, but I secured for Alamo about $600 for each for those 2 guys, a one-time grant. So that offset it a little bit, 600 we want to get, but I'll solicit everything I can. And once we develop that relationship, I would turn that over to the town, and then they would,
Ideally, are you looking, would you think 1 person, 2 people, 10 people? I mean, what should we be looking at?
honestly, I would look at what my need is, but gosh, I don't know that I would go more than 1, certainly more than 2, and
Okay.
just to see, kind of how things went. I wouldn't invest too much, and I'm very, very confident in the program and pretty sure they'll be successful. But my advice would be not jump in too deep and just kind of see how it goes. And we can add people. There's no start or end date. We can add at any time.
Well, once some graduate, you start.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And some of them are, the time frame's not gonna be on 2 years, because I've got them going this May to take their distribution,
Oh,
some
yeah.
taking collection.
Yeah.
We're already ahead of all that scale.
So you're already kind of doing.
We're
some of
already
these
doing it,
certifications
guys.
and
We're
stuff.
already doing it, but you are gonna have 2 key positions. That's why I brought this up to y'all, is the water plant, wastewater plant. We'll have people retire in a few years, and want to be replacing those people and getting key people in those positions that can learn with alongside them too for a few years too.
Just asking, Tom, you got anybody already in mind? You the man, you know who you got.
Well, y'all talked about opening up to everybody, which I'm fine with that, but I did have 2. I've got 2 people who are pretty intuitive, they're pretty interested, and I think they would be the 2 people I would have picked. But now we will be glad to go through all the employees, give them a chance to do an interview process and all that.
Well, I'd said before, I'd like to see everyone have the opportunity to apply for it.
And I'm okay
If they're
with that.
selected or not. I'm not saying everybody needs to do it. That's not. what
Well,
I'm
like you
saying.
said, if we get 2 people in it, we're a year in it, hey, this is great, and we want to send 2 more.
We can always keep moving on down and keep that open.
Absolutely.
Because some of their training, as he has said, the
So-
training they go through counts toward it, and it's most of it, they're gonna get it. Some of that curriculum's already being taken.
Yeah. We just kind of overkill on the curriculum. If you're getting a guy distribution certified, typically he'll go take a distribution class, maybe do the crams
In the
and
math.
the math, and then go take the test. We're going to give him a lot more than just that, a lot more.
And most of our guys didn't have the cross connections.
Cross connections,
certifications
yeah.
already
See,
out of the way.
And so that's a savings for you if it's one of those guys.
We've already got all that.
So
most of
the
them's already-
$2,500 budget is based on every single
That's-
certification.
Starting at 0.
We've got guys that have already got some of it knocked out, that number will come down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You got some going this May to take their certifications for distribution, cross collection system,
Okay.
but not water and wastewater yet, because that's what this program was hoping to help provide,
Okay.
the education for that.
We also have water, TAUD, water and wastewater circuit riders, that Tommy's familiar with, and those are folks that just drop by periodically to give, support, technical support if something's going on weird at the plants. You know, these guys come in, and they would also be available to kind of tutor these guys and, you know, give them advice and mentor them as well as Tommy, and maybe kind of give us advice on when they think maybe we're ready to go do one of the certification exams. You know, stuff like that. You'd still have that availability. Just, you know, lots of resources.
Yeah, Penny was gonna help. Penny at the wastewater was gonna mentor one of them, and I'd mentor the other if we did two. So we wouldn't be tied up, one person tied up with both of them. And being she's gonna be helping train somebody in that situation.
Absolutely.
Or be
Well,
mentoring them.
I appreciate Tommy bringing it to us, and I appreciate TAUD putting this program together, because so many of our trade-related jobs are not getting passed on, and there's gonna be a tremendous shortage in the
You're
right
absolutely right. Yes, sir.
coming forward. And y'all are being proactive on this, and I have to applaud you on that, and I'm 100% sold on it. You know, do what you want to do.
Can't go wrong investing in your people.
Nope.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have anything else? Good.
Yes, you can contact me through Tommy, and anything you need, just don't hesitate to call me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
And you're welcome to stay, and also, if you-
Well,
I know you read.
I'm 2.5 hours
You better get
east
on.
of here, so I'm gonna head back that way. If you
Thank
guys
you
don't
for
mind.
your time.
Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You guys have a beautiful town, and I'm eager to start working with you.
Thank you for coming out.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
That was a big help. I think that's gonna be a very good program for us.
Do we need to move forward with this? Do we need to vote on moving forward or participating in it? Have we received all the?
There's a document you have to.
Have we
agree to
received
sign.
those and they've been reviewed?
I don't know that county attorney or anybody's reviewed them. I know
No.
Tommy may have seen them.
No, I've seen them, but I think that it might have been in that packet I gave you, but I'll make sure. If you give us a little time to.
I'd like to see us move forward with it. I do think we need to have the county attorney review them, or our attorney. I don't know whether the county attorney is our attorney, I assume it is. And, move forward with it.
Yeah, I think we've got to get kind of the whole package put together. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna screen people?
Yeah,
What's the
got-
proposal?
the whole program put
Yeah.
together. What
And
we
I would
wanna
also
do.
like to do if we put them through the program and they graduate, that they work for us for a certain amount of years. That way we don't have the situation like we did in the sheriff department where we put them through and a few months later they're gone.
And he has that model document he's already
Mhm.
stated, so I'd ask that we receive
Matter
that
of
as
fact,
well.
I asked him about that before, and at the time they really did. I think Don Scholes probably prepared that document because they knew it was coming. People were asking for it, so he works for them as well. He's their counsel.
Let's move forward and try to get what we need.
I can get your
started.
paperwork
Get
together
this
and
project
we'll look at it next month.
So if we get the
Sounds
paper
great.
together, then do you want us, are you gonna help? Do you want to provide something that we're going for the interview process is what I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
Is that something
Well,
that,
I'll get with him and talk about how he would go about that. He's got some kind of format.
okay, you just
We
bring
can
it back?
prepare that, and this is how we will proceed going. Each employee wants, we may just leave it to the employee, if he wants to get involved, let him put his name in the hat, and we'll put him up for an interview him. And if they're not interested, then not need to worry about that.
And we've got a bit of a process put together that we use countywide for county hires.
Okay.
I don't,
We can look at it all.
could it not just be used?
Sure, we can pull from it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure the water department has one they use. I'm thinking it's just they post the job. If they post it internally, anybody that's interested in the program can apply for it and we can advertise it out in the community. Anybody wants to be a new hire to do it.
So, yeah, we put all that together and keep moving forward with it. I think we're looking good.
Thank you for thinking of the future.
Yep. That's- Shows a lot there.
Excuse me, Tom.
Evan, we were a little hard on you earlier, but
I ain't gonna apologize.
All right.
I am. It's on TV.
As far as our job, the current CBD is getting closed out with the zone meters and the telemetry. Faye is right now in the process of applying, and we've been going back and forth today on how to word the application to give y'all the best opportunity to get that grant. The garage building is gonna go in the paper next Thursday. We'll open bids on I put it on the 22nd. That'll be a week, not quite a week, but a couple of days before y'all's next board meeting. That way y'all can approve it or disapprove it, or we'll do something at that point. But I wanted to give them a long enough time to look at it and really crunch numbers. If you try to only give them a short time to pick up on it, usually their numbers will reflect that. So I'm trying to give them 3 weeks there in order to get the numbers in on that. SRF has all the documents that they requested, so they're down there reviewing it. I can't even tell you how long it'll take them, but they have everything they wanted, the additional questions. I think that's all besides painting, they're painting right now. We're going tomorrow to check the thickness of all the paint. They got all the primer down right now, so. That's all I'm thinking of.
Any other questions for Evan? Evan, thank you for being consistent, and being persistent on getting these things taken care of for us and presenting. Thank you so much. Tommy.
Yeah.
You're up.
We got the budget again for all, consider approving it. I did, talking about that training, I did beef up some of the funds for the training in its budget. For the apprenticeship program, if we choose to do it.
So you've already got that built into the.
Yeah, I
budget?
built some extra money into the budget for it.
So how much did you have? 5,000?
5,000, I think.
That's what it looked like.
Some of that money we don't use for that, y'all, some of that's y'all's annual training, but y'all only go through it every so many years, so some of it can be used toward that. And sometimes I need to remember to get this paid, you have, and within the 12 months, we need to get that for you. I keep forgetting about it.
Okay.
You gotta have your time or training in 12 months, starting as a board member.
That can't be done through the comptroller's office online, can't it?
Yes, I think so. There's comptrollers. We can look and give her all of our options.
So like you have fond memories of it.
The most boring 2 nights of my life. Still got it right here. Two nights I wrote down one thing.
Very educational.
Tommy, it looks like wages, general wages are up about 165.
Well, we hired,
175.
we hired them 2 people.
Okay.
Well, and part of that's project money that we haven't moved
And
yet.
some of that's, we keep up track our projects, and the overtime in those projects gets capitalized, so it don't count against you. Oh, and
But it hadn't been moved to the project.
Just hadn't been
It's still
moved
an
yet.
expense.
Okay.
We're still processing
We haven't
that.
closed it out.
We hadn't closed it out. Some of that's gonna be depreciated or capitalized.
Well, I was just looking at the 2019-20 budget.
Yeah, that
14 versus proposed.
Yeah.
589.
Those 2 guys we
That's
hired.
2 new hires. Plus some.
Some time we've spent doing the hydrants, doing the water line, we gotta get all that capitalized.
Okay.
Just asking, Tyler, what's the average hourly rate for the guys that work for one department? Just roughly.
Say around $17. They range from 26 down to 12 and a half or something like that. The 13, maybe the lowest 13. So
26 is not a bill tax.
No, that's a wastewater operator. No, that's the chief operator to wastewater plant. Makes,
Okay, just guys in the field, just roughly.
well, just got, well, probably about, you
What
know,
are they top out at?
15, they top out. Scotty's probably been here. He's probably around 20, 24 range,
Okay.
something like this. Most of them, like Scotty's done got all his licenses. He's done got some of those, most all of them.
It sounds like a lot of money in the paper too. You figure somebody goes on, start paying bills with
Yeah,
$20 an hour.
no.
Say that.
I was thinking, say you gonna be hauling it tonight?
I'll do it every day, man. Every day.
Any more questions for them?
It included a 2% overall raise, but what, 1.3 was cost of living, 0.7 was a raise. That's what I found on the federal website was 1.3 cost of living, what they're giving. But I asked for that 0.7 for the raise part, that's 2% total.
Appreciate the notes on the side.
That's what y'all-
Yeah, I was gonna say that. too.
That's what y'all asked for, is that suitable to
Yeah,
y'all?
yeah, that's great for me.
That's very, very,
We might get that, see, we have to show it as an income, any grants, you have to show as income. So we might get that grant, so I put it in here as income. And we have the second thing I was gonna talk to you about, is another grant for planning, we're trying to, it's $50,000 grant. I didn't include that, but I didn't know how long it took, I don't know about the award of it, when it gets awarded.
I got a question on the grant revenue, Thomas, since you're covering that, and it's probably a question more for Mary Dale. Is that something we need to go ahead and show up front, or should we do like a budget amendment or something if we get the grant? Because right now, it's a competitive grant, so I don't know if we're gonna get it or not.
It's possible,
I mean, as far as our budget's concerned,
I don't
it
think
doesn't.
it either is or isn't. As long as on here, you have a positive balance at the bottom, we wouldn't get in trouble with comptroller ourselves unless we had 2 years in the red. They'd want to know why you're not balancing your budget. You have to go 2 years and they'd be asking, you want to do something about your rates, you're going to do something to get your funds up.
Pictures is just 2,500. It's just 2,500 for y'all.
Yeah, on that $50,000 planning grants, 5% match. On that one, and that's not in here, I didn't add it to it. I didn't know.
Right now, it shows the possible CDBG.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
525. And on the county side, if we get a grant, we add it at the time we get it. We don't put it in and show it as revenue up front.
Well, we can take it out, I don't think it matters, I mean, we can put it in if we get it. I can remove it for you. I think it'll drop you percent down there around 6 to 7% income without it showing down at the bottom.
So that's, I work where it's ahead in the budget, and I work where it comes in and asks for amendment to the budget, both based on the. I've worked with both formulas.
However y'all like to see it, I think would be fine.
You want to shock later, you want to take it down?
I think it's something y'all can do or do not, in my opinion, but whatever y'all wish to do. There's some, there's projects we we've held depreciation in this last year's budget for the tank that we didn't expense yet, but we had it in there. So you didn't expend it, it was there, and it's in here again this year, so. I knew it was probably gonna go down that road, so we kept it in there. We didn't know the time frame. But I added it, but it's just the income you hadn't used.
What do we normally do on this? What's been our?
Boy, just normal. I've always tried to plan on it if it's there myself, if we get it. That's why when I give y'all's overall view of the monthly, that's why you got a grant versus not. Your income versus what you truly made right without that grant. Because it's really just a pass through money.
Right.
It's not cash. It's considered that to you cash as the comptroller considers it. Just like in that-
Consider it income though.
Just like in that contribution and gifts, when the developer gives you something, that 200 something thousand, that's his contribution to you. You have to show it as an income. And you have to appreciate it too. So,
My preference is that we don't put it in there unless we have it or we know we've been approved for it, we're gonna get it.
Do you have
We
the
always
expense
have
in there
it
too?
when it comes, but
So you don't have the expense to go with the income?
you just have to show it as a they call it a contribution.
I'm talking about the grant. If you're
Well,
gonna show
see,
one, you definitely need to show the other.
Well, the expense would be a
Your max.
capital project. It would go to the assets side.
Yeah, I've got them in here.
Oh, that's what
It's in here
Let's make sure
included.
you put it in both.
It's in the
columns.
expense column too, guys,
Yeah.
just in case you have it.
so it offsets, I understand that, but it's kind of like counting eggs before the chicken grows.
But I think that's up to y'all, how y'all want to see it.
I mean, it's simple to do a budget amendment, add it in once you have it,
Oh, yeah.
you know, but certainly you don't want to show the expenses
didn't.
for it in there and not.
That's why it's gonna be
Yeah.
consistent.
I mean, we didn't amend,
Same way.
If you're doing both, if you got both in there, I don't see that it would.
we didn't have to amend the contribution, the comptroller added that, because they want to know what that cost was. So we have to provide them a cost from an engineer on the project, they want to know that up front. That's kind of, we had a little issue, they wanted to know what's this worth, but we get, you know, so now the engineer has to provide a cost estimate for the project. So they know how to value that. And before we do it, before this guy here does his development, he'll have to do the same thing. They will have to provide a cost, because they have to provide a bond for that. They'll get that bond on whatever he says that is, and we have to provide that to the comptroller.
I know our finances are handled different than the county, but I can't imagine any of our county budgeting that we're gonna put a grant that we don't have in budget.
We amend it as we get it.
Yeah.
We put in for it, and once we get it, we know we're gonna get it, we'll go ahead and put it in the budget, and then we have to sign the contract to make sure that's okayed, and we do a budget amendment at the time.
As long as it won't hinder any opportunities for acquiring a grant, because the money needs to be in the budget.
I don't know if that's true, I don't think, I just something we plan on if we
Okay.
think we're gonna get it. It can be removed, it's not a,
You're talking about the match.
Y'all just sign a resolution saying you're gonna do the match, so that's all they care.
yeah, you'll have to agree to that when you, if you win it. Yeah.
You're gonna have to do that when you get it in there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
For us, for me, from a county standpoint, being a county representative, sitting here with the mayor, I would like to see it consistent with what we do in the county. I'm not opposed to doing it the other way. I just feel like it would be a consistency type. Mayor,
That's the way I'm used to doing it, so that's kind of how I prefer to do it, is we show it, we add it to, do a budget amendment, add it as we get it, and don't show it up. Assume we're gonna get it ahead of time.
You know, put that in form of motion so we all clear on what we want to do going forward.
I think the budget needs to reflect not monies that we don't. I mean, I know that we're reflecting monies we don't have when we're estimating what we're going, how much we're gonna have from water and how much we're gonna have from
Right.
sales of water. I mean, it's all an estimate. I get that. So I can see both sides too. I mean, I can see both ways. I'm just saying, from a standpoint of the way everything else within the county and the auditors looking at it, that's the way they look at it. But I really have no strong feelings one way or the other.
I thought those would be good.
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
Got a motion on the table.
So is the motion to approve the budget after the grant funds are removed? Is that,
That would be my motion. to remove the grant funds
And then approve the budget.
and remove the expenditures related to the grant funds, of course. And everything else, I'm good with. I mean, if we need to look at it again, final, I saw nothing in this that gave me any rise or concern whatsoever. Other than that, and, so yeah, I will make that motion. We approve the budget, revise it to remove the anticipated grant and associated expenditures.
I'll second. Mark's a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Right. How many things?
That just mentioned that grant, that $6,000, we done, what we did do, instead of, and I've been part of that, the process selection committee. We every time we get something like this, we have to do a selection committee and pick an engineer, so we decided, and it was okay in this process to go after this grant, to just go ahead and select an engineer for the next 3 years and not have to do this every time something pops up. We did put out a RFQ for that, for this grant project. It will go toward whoever gets it will provide the services if they get selected in that selection committee.
What is the grant for exactly?
Planning, TDEC requires us to do updated maps. We can use it for that, I&I stuff, pre-study stuff,
So it
and
could be for a variety. of things.
we're gonna probably word it in a way we can do it in a variety of ways and try to expense all $50,000
Okay.
at a 5% match, and we may add another 5% to GNRC to pay them, which is probably around $5,000.
But it has to do with planning, it's not. for
Infrastructure planning grants, what it is.
And our maps are woefully inadequate and need to be.
And it'll cost a pretty good bit to fix them, so.
Okay.
So this will help pay for that, not be $5,000 out of y'all pocket. And do a little planning on the same terms.
Good to me.
So this is $50,000, not to bond them, but to acquire their services for a long-term opportunity so that we're not renewing within every project that needs to be done. Is that accurate?
Well, any project that comes up, if you already, most all of it, CDBG is different. Every project they do, you have to do it. But about every other grant will allow you to use the engineer you have in your service
Okay.
to provide that service.
Your engineer of record.
Of record. Mhm.
As long as you do it through a competitive RFQ process.
As long as you do it, then
So it's basically, he's asking if we go ahead and do it for one, and that way in the future, when we have these come up, we don't have to keep successively doing RFQ and getting engineering firm for each individual little project.
and we only had to send that out to 3 firms. So that's the county's, I think it might be a
So
county.
did we go
That
ahead and
would be
make the
stated.
selection on this one, on this grant application?
Not for that purpose. It'll be for the one coming up here.
What's the one we just did?
It was for CDBG sewer.
That was
Yes.
sewer.
But that's not this.
No.
No, this is
Or-
completely different.
That was for the.
Industrial park. It was a sewer project, but it's industrial.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that was a
Right.
Tennessee Central.
site development grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't city.
Right.
But if we'd had this done, we wouldn't have probably had to done that. We could have just said that our engineer record could have done that. If the grant allowed it, and it sounds like according to the GNRC guy, it would have allowed it. Now, not all grants may, but it'll limit you having to do this selection every time and advertising and giving time, or not advertising, but putting that RFQ and waiting on that process and having.
I'll say you 6 to 8 weeks of getting a project started at least.
Well, we give them 10 days to turn in something to us to look at and to review at a selection committee.
Just like on the site development one, it got referred to us, because Tennessee Central worked on it with GNRC, which is our development district, Greater National Regional Council. And then they determined that it'd be better if it went through the county. We had, less than 10 days to get it in front of the county commission, approved, have a firm selected and get our application in. But once we got selected, how many days did you have? 3
He
days?
had 3 days.
So this would have avoided
We had to
all
have a
that.
special
It would
call
avoid
meeting
that,
to even
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I had to call a special call meeting on March 8th so that we could get it selected and have our grant, have them come in, do the work and have our application submitted by the 12th.
$2,000 to county commission.
So this would have saved us that process.
County commission. So, you know, I can see the merits of doing it, and I sit on the professional selections committee, me and the mayor and whoever we select for the third body. Which stuff relating to this, we always pick Tommy, because he's the one that has the knowledge on what we're trying to do, so. I don't say always, but typically the last few we have. And it's a necessary evil, but if there's some way that we can simplify that process, we certainly need to do it.
Yeah, we need a motion.
Well, we're gonna start it. Sorry. We just
You still don't
informed
have
you
to
what
have-
we were doing. And
Just make sure you don't need
the
movement.
county allows this process and it's something we follow for as RFQs and it's something they, I just letting you know we were going this route to save this time in the future.
Thanks for making us feel good.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. We kind of got before you there. If we might
That's
back
all right,
up.
that's all right. It's all good, it works out. It
Tommy,
works.
is that gonna have to come in front of the water board to approve any long-term contracts? Is it
If
for 3
we
years?
win, no, on
No?
that, no,
Not until it's awarded.
not till it's,
Well, that's what I'm talking about. After it's awarded and he
Yeah.
works out an agreement with them, then come back to us for the final. I'm just saying, does Tommy need our permission to sign off on the contract, basically what I'm saying? Once the firm is selected and we're entering into the agreement with them for the 3 years,
you could get it
does it
out
have to be
right.
approved by the board or Tommy have the authority to go ahead and sign that?
It'll be by the selection committee. The selection meeting is the one.
And do
chooses.
we have appointed selection?
I think if you win the grant, then you may have to approve whatever the cost.
Yeah,
is.
that's what I was talking about.
Well, I know selection committee is gonna make a selection, but let's say Tommy calls them up to try to negotiate or talk to them about something and all of a sudden everything falls through and you gotta go to somebody else. I'm just saying, since this is gonna be a 3-year agreement, we're gonna enter a contractual agreement with them for 3 years. Whenever they send him, whatever the agreement's gonna be, does he have to come back to us to say, okay, Tommy, we approve this, you sign it, or does he already have the authority to sign it? Because the way the county goes, I would have to go basically get permission to
Yeah,
sign
I
off on
think
it.
you
and I have to
because
sign the
I
contract.
signed the contract with you on this tank after y'all approved it, so
Yeah,
that'd probably be wise. to
So
do.
that's what I'm asking. We would have to
Yes.
approve the contract and then we basically approve you, give you the authority to sign the contract.
Yes.
And it's a two-way street on the 3 years. It's not locked in.
You're not really locked in and have to use them, it's just gives you the right to use it. It's kind of, you can part ways if you wish, but
Well, I think what the mayor's asking is, there's certain things that the commission has to give him the authority. We had resolutions last night to give him the authority to sign this on
I
behalf
think it
of
would
the
be
county.
wise.
I think is what he's saying is, do we need to have a resolution, a vote to give you the authority to
Yes.
sign this on behalf of the board, or does it need to come back to the board? Did that?
How about that be a motion? Then it comes back to the board. For her, and I'll second it. And then,
You gotta tell me.
I'm good with that,
You good with that?
Well,
motion?
can I intervene one, this has.
but it was more of a question than a motion, but I'm just.
The next grant we have to deal with it's due April 23rd, where we have time for another board meeting to do that.
See, that's the whole reason for doing
It
it.
has a deadline. We have longer than we did on the last one, but we have April 23rd as a deadline to have this. That's when it's gotta be turned in on this
And that's,
planning grant.
that's the planning grant that we were talking GNRC,
Yes,
doing the
that's,
grant administration for, right?
see, we did this RFQ this way, not to have to do it
One of
again.
my things we have it where it's in the budget always. before you apply for the grant.
It's not so much the funding as the authority to be able to obligate the water.
And then the contract comes back and it gets permission.
I think how this will work is, because not all their work's gonna be done under grant, so it'll be under contracted services and budget.
Mhm.
It's just if they also work on this grant, they keep track of their expenditures and then you
Right.
submit that as reimbursement under the grant. Am I right on that, Evan? Because he could ask you to do some work that is not part of a grant,
Correct.
Right.
but as long as the grant qualifications allow us to use our engineer of record, you would keep track of what you're actually working on that grant project. And then we would submit that as part of the expenditures for the grant. Am I right?
Correct.
Yes. And then, like I said, the grant fund would be, revenue from the grant would pay for that expenditure.
It can, if you want to do it that way, or you can.
Or to be part of the match.
Either way.
But it would be all calculated under the grant.
Yes.
I just know budget wise, it's gonna show, because you're gonna have to have an expenditure line that's specific for that grant versus your regular contracted services, which is a different option code for something else. I know it's kind of confusing, but
Very, very. But the question is, do we need to give Tommy the authority to move forward, or do we need to make this come back to the board for us to vote? That's what's on the table, right?
So the grant application is April 23rd.
third,
So if we give permission to apply for the grant and the contract come back to us based on the
There
approval.
won't be a contract.
There won't be
Okay.
one,
Not
not,
on this.
not on this. This is just to select someone. And if we go through with the grant, we win it, then we'll take his services. He'll give us, he'll have to provide what we're gonna do in a form that they'll have to accept. The plan for the project, what the money's gonna be spent for. And we'll have a budget then, and he'll be paid accordingly to his work.
Why, where did we come up with 3 years? Why not a year? Why not 2 years? Why not 5 years?
3 is starting to be almost a norm
I
with
mean,
some of the
I'm just
consulting
asking,
firms
is
that I'm dealing with.
That's
It's
what
what
3 to
state
5
allows.
years.
Is that just a
That's what the state
customary
allows.
thing?
Yeah.
state allows
State
it,
allows.
3
Okay.
years.
So the state would allow up to 3 years.
Mhm, they don't
Okay,
let
so
them
you
know
couldn't
that.
go more than
And
but we
again,
could go less.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
but by the time, if you have a project in the pipeline, if you only have a 1 year, but you're gonna be out
Never gonna be.
go
3.
beyond that, and that's why it's up to the 3 year. And I think there's a little bit of confusion here. You're wanting to do the engineering firm separate from this grant we're talking about. They're two separate
it's a
things, right?
separate thing.
Okay, I think that's.
It's
Okay,
it's a
yeah, I
separate
got
deal.
confused.
I'm
But
sorry, we're
it will
getting this
help
again.
with that.
This-
Right. it
If
will
we
help.
do this, it could help with that, but yeah.
We could have just did this for the grant, but like GNRC, the guy Matt Von Linden recommended, he said we could do it this way, and then most all grants allow you to use your engineer of record if you have this procedure done right here. And we wouldn't have to do that selection every time. And wouldn't get caught like we did this last time. He had 3 days to do an evaluation of a project.
Is that what Tennessee Central, do they do something similar to that with their engineer? Do you remember?
Yeah, they retained, they used to do it on a kind of a project, well, they had Goodwill Mills in Kaywood. And I think they kind of broke up or something. And now they use Warren Engineering, but this last grant we did, since it was under the county, it wasn't their engineering firm, we had to
Right.
select one under our
But
requirements.
as far as the stuff they do.
As far as the stuff they do, they usually use Warren Engineering to come in and do stuff on site. That's their engineering firm they've retained.
The committee will select this engineer, and then whenever you need him, then we'll use contract with him then on a work need by basis, I guess would be the.
Well, if the committee will be involved, I don't have a problem with going ahead and talk about the
For this coming grant, I'll read something.
Yeah, but
Oh, make it a motion.
one more time, so it's quick.
It gets me closer to supper, let's get it on.
And if it makes you feel better, it's in my spending limit, so it's not obligating y'all to have to make a vote to vote on something. Cause I'm on, my spending limit is $10,000, so if it's a $5,000 expense, and I can make that
Prettier
decision.
and prettier, the more he talks. That's it. So there we go.
What was the motion?
I think it's moving on down.
Tommy gets to apply for that grant.
Basically,
I think the
we were
motion was-
deciding that Tommy, we were gonna authorize Tommy to retain an engineer. But the selection committee is gonna be involved in it, so it doesn't necessarily require our input. So I say, let's let him have at it.
I don't know that it would because it's not over. Y'all aren't having to agree to spend anything, and I already kind of use them anyway, but the selection committee gives us the use when we do have something that y'all need to do.
Each,
How about this? I make a motion that the engineering firm or that the professional services selection committee selects, Tommy has the authority to go ahead and enter into an agreement with them to provide engineering service.
I'll second that on the.
For 3 years.
Yeah, for the term of 3 years.
All in favor?
I
100%.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is that all done? For-
So the budget wise, did y'all approve it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
it was approved,
The
taking out the
grant
CDBG stuff.
take the grant out,
Yeah.
the fences and.
I'll just say this, if we, yes, sir, I appreciate it. I won't order there was some items in there that we were gonna purchase, okay, y'all,
saw
it's
those,
in the budget.
right.
Truck and that generator. I won't order the generator unless we're sure we're gonna be able to build it, okay?
Of course,
If it's in here, and y'all approved it, but if we don't need it, we won't be buying it. Okay?
of course.
Just letting you know,
we're gonna put a transfer switch in the building.
we were gonna do that in the
It's
project.
bidding,
It's in the bid.
it's in, yes.
That's what we did. We did the transfer, but the generator wasn't.
That way y'all
added.
can buy,
Yeah,
yeah.
We use our
That was
buying
that was the way
power
I interpreted it, so.
and save a little money that way.
So on these project costs, purchase request sheet,
Yes,
so we need to go over that.
if you want to, we can.
Okay.
Because it was included. in
It
the
was
budget.
included in your budget package.
Yes. And you got the shop building project from 500 to 750.
Yeah, I think that's what y'all kind of talked about last.
Well, we said when this started, 500 would be 750 now. Did you ever run any more figures or look?
That's what they're telling me
Okay,
from steel.
okay, good.
And that's what the
Lumber's
bids,
40, steel's 30.
and that's what the bids are coming in on is April 22nd. I
Yes,
think you said
we
it's gonna be
are current.
advertised next week.
Yes.
Is it this Thursday or April 1st?
It'll be next Thursday.
And the way I done the bid documents on that, I've got an entire bid coming in. Then I've got a deduct for y'all providing the building. That way you can buy the pre-engineered metal building tax-free.
Oh, wow.
We opted to do the tax free because we are tax exempt.
But if the contractor does, it, he can.
He can't do that.
He can't do it. But we-
But we could buy the building, he could put it up.
Correct.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
But you got a price of knowing what you're gonna get.
Sure,
middle of it for.
Right. I understand. Planter Street Sewer Project, what is that?
That was the one that sewer come up to the back of the building here.
Okay, is that not completed?
Yes,
Okay,
it ain't on the books yet. It
did
ain't,
it cost us 51,000?
that was the second phase of it. We did it in 2 phases.
You got the Garrett Brothers to begin with.
We
And
did.
one truck,
One truck and the
Okay.
generator,
generator if we need it,
and then the other.
the tank rehab,
That's T-Deck money, because they want us to rehab our tanks that we ain't taking
but
out.
if we get the big one built, we're not gonna have to,
No,
right?
you're gonna
No,
have
we're
to-
gonna
We'll still
have
have
to.
to.
We got the smaller tanks, so I put 200,000 in there to
Okay.
do some rehab work
On the other one.
because they wrote us up in our sanitary survey to move ahead and start
Right.
doing those.
Okay,
And probably Snake Hollow tank will be the first one on the list for that.
okay,
If we got more money, we'll go to another one, see, but I'll get it, I'm gonna get Evan to evaluate them, do a project.
Yeah, you've got like is it 14?
We've got 11 tanks
11.
altogether,
There's
but
11
hopefully get rid of
tanks
3. But we still gotta maintain the ones we got, the other ones, smaller ones.
Public comments, Ms. Harper, remember last meeting, she was the one that had the sewer issue. I made a mistake and told her the wrong date of the board meeting. a couple of weeks ago. Messed that up. So she called me on it and said that when she found out the meeting was tonight, called me on it. Said that she was not going to be able to make it, but she did not feel it was fair that and I kind of agreed with her that we don't go ahead and move forward with some kind of
She
resolution
didn't
with it.
provide the information.
And I did ask her about those bills, but she said
Mhm.
if there's anything you can do, she would appreciate it. And
Well, I mean,
that's
I
where
think we were all willing, and she had agreed that she was gonna bring us some pictures that she had,
those
and some
bills,
other bills and some things like that. And I mean, I even asked Tommy today, whether she had, and, you know, he had said, I've not gotten anything from her, I'm just waiting on her to bring it, so we can talk to the insurance company. And I asked you, and I think
I may have
maybe this
missed
is an
your
email.
email. I talked to the insurance provider. He said we just need to provide him with our work orders and stuff that we had documentation and he would review it. But we was kind of waiting to get all of it to send to him. Everything that was involved, the bills that she had the 2 bills she provided, but she had one that she did not provide.
Right.
It was never mentioned actually at the time she talked to me the first time.
I did
The
ask
third
her
bill.
about those bills. She said she had them,
I
but she
think
was gonna bring them to the meeting, is what she said.
we've been waiting on her. I don't know what she's waiting on. I mean, I thought it was pretty clear last meeting, what she needed, what we needed her to do for us to move forward with this. And she said she would and could, and she hasn't, so.
How about we reach out to her one more time,
Yeah, we can
see
ask.
if we can get what we need, then if nothing happens there, then let's sleep the dog fly.
I don't think it's anything we don't want to address.
No.
I think, but, you know, she's gotta do her part.
Moving forward to prevent these issues in the future. We will be installing clean outs every time somebody wants to. We just won't, this won't happen again.
I mean, that's good, I like.
I mean, we're gonna do our part not to have it happen again, if it ever happens.
That's all anybody can ask.
I don't think personally, my personal opinion, I don't feel we're reliable because we did what we said we would do. When we were notified, that's how we normally, y'all have always done that kind of that way when I got here. When anybody ever told us it was at the road, we got involved and fixed it, you know.
I think my question with that though was, she's not gonna know what our policy is.
I know, some,
Unfortunately, the first contractor that she got in touch with, either A, didn't know, or B, didn't care. But unfortunately, right now, if you can find anybody with a pulse that'll do anything, you generally jump on them regardless of the quality. I think it's just an unfortunate circumstance, but I still feel like, you know, the right thing to do is to make it right.
I did talk to, you know, I've got a document, I need to modify it to show y'all, to put our stuff in it. But Don Scholes provided me with a release form that some utilities use in cases like this where they do make an agreement to pay somebody something, that it releases you of all liability.
Yes, you basically, you say you're paying them now and they give up any right to sue you or come back and claim anything else in the future.
And he got that come from a neighboring, not far utility from here, that they use that when somebody does make a. I don't know what all their requirements are.
We do agree to do anything financially for her, we need to get that release.
That's what he read. He said a lot of utilities do that. And it may be because it didn't get above maybe their insurance limit or I think ours is $1,000.
Right.
If you have $1,000, that's the only thing you make a claim on.
So our deductibles.
Our deductible's $1,000.
I think these bills are less than 1,000, right?
Well, the ones that she gave us are, she said there was one more that made it over 1,000, so I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I would suggest in the future, whether it's $10, $10,000 or $1,000, if we are doing some kind of agreement with somebody saying that we cost them money, we always get this release of liability form saying that they will not come back and try to sue us after we've given them this money.
Totally agree. Totally.
Well, I'll I'll get that document fixed, email it to y'all, gonna look at it, bring it next month's meeting to you to look at it.
So even if we turn it into the insurance, we're gonna pay the first $1,000, right?
If it's,
So
if it's your.
why don't we
name
even pay with
liable.
the insurance? She wasn't even talking that much money, was she? How much was she asking for? What did she say it cost?
Well, there was 500, 300
600
or
or
something.
800
Yeah.
bucks up there.
So,
I had 550 stuck in my head for some reason.
I think that was one of the bills.
that was one of the.
I think both bills together was around 550,
And then she had one more
yeah.
that she didn't provide.
She had one more, she didn't provide it, she said maybe over 1,000 or over, I thought she said. We
Well,
didn't get that.
I'm posing this as a question. It's not a motion. It is not my recommendation. Would it be out of line to consider, okay, we'll pay half of it, you pay half of it? I mean, I don't know. Would that make her happy to feel like that, okay, we're gonna share in this, you're not out all of it? You know, I don't know. I mean, we didn't talk about that in before.
Ratepayer, I wouldn't go with it. I wouldn't be a bit happy about it. I mean, I
Okay.
come home, I got brown water in my bathroom, and it's because you're pipe. Somebody paying me.
And I don't
No,
I don't
just
feel
put that
like,
out.
no, I don't think the liability failed. My personal opinion, I don't think the liability failed with our employees and what we've done. Only thing the liability falls on, hey, on our end, we had a collapsed pipe and it backed her up. That's why I feel like we're liable. My personal opinion, not because of what any of our guys have done. Now, is that a policy that we have something against that, or stating that if something happens on our end that causes damage on the other end, that, sorry about your luck? I
I
mean,
did talk to the contractor that did some of the work for him, and he used a pressure device to jam in there to try to unclog this. And with clay pipe, that pressure device could have done all that damage to our side. It could be possible that he did do the damage, and I ain't saying he did or didn't. but
This
it's
would have been
possible.
the first guy or the second guy.
This was the second guy with the bigger bill. Clay pipe's very fragile, so water pressure and jamming it with a steel rod might damage it. You could touch it, it falls apart. It's just the nature of our system, I ain't saying that happened, I'm just saying it's possible. I'm just letting you know there's things that could happen outside of our knowledge that it might have been sound until that happened. And he might have got a real clog out of the line, but he damaged the line doing it. It's just very possible. And that's why, and I told our guys, I've asked the ladies to be sure I get notified of every sewer complaint like this. Because we will evaluate it and we will go ahead and put a clean out, because that tells us if we got a problem or not. And that just eliminates this going forward, we're there, but we gotta do that 3-day call dig and do our due diligence to get that done, or do an emergency, but we will put one in if somebody has an issue. And moving forward, that's how I plan on dealing with it, and hopefully we won't have it happen much more often.
Well, to circle back, though, I think if you reach out, ask her again one more time,
Yeah,
third time's a charm, provide documentation. If she does, then
Then we want to do our due diligence, take it to our insurance, that this is what's going
if it's
on.
over $1,000.
Yeah,
I mean, how much over that? I mean, if it's $1,200, I mean, we're not making a claim for $250.
Well, I mean, our insurance, I eat a whole lot of oopsie during the year.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's.
Sometimes I go above my.
And I think her plumber
Deductible.
kind of overcharged her, because my understanding, he came at 8 o'clock that morning. We showed up at 10 and he charged her 6 hours. So he was there watching us work. So I have a problem paying for that personally,
But,
But it was Thanksgiving weekend too.
and he's the one that fixed it. I have more of a problem paying the first guy that didn't do it. I'm paying for somebody that didn't even fix the problem. I don't mind paying for somebody to fix the
She
problem.
hadn't provided that bill at all yet. She didn't have that one with her last. At the very least, we pay the second bill,
Absolutely.
maybe a little something to clean up, because I'd be pretty hot if I had to clean up brown water. But regardless, if she doesn't bring us
She
any
didn't
kind
charge
of
us
money-
anything for cleanup.
Well, I mean, if she does,
She just provided the two bills.
but if she doesn't bring anything in, then I don't.
I mean, I got that document. I started working on putting all of our information in it. So I
Let's
can
get
show
that, let's
you.
get that cleaned up, and ready to get signed, or we need to get it in front of the county attorney.
I can send it to the county attorney and see if he agrees with it. It's exactly what Don Scope provided us. It's just in the name of another utility. You just have to go in and change all the names around and
Pay him more than $200.
if y'all want to,
Yeah.
if that document's been approved by Mr. Scholes, it's been used in other utilities, probably a legitimate document.
Agreed.
That's something that insurance companies use. That's probably a general document. I don't feel like we need to go.
No, I'm fine with the document, I
I
think.
do think we need to get it signed if we pay her anything, but
I don't think there's a person sitting in this room that wasn't prepared to authorize writing her a check today had she done what she said she was gonna do.
And she had been given the wrong date to be here, so.
Which is why I say give her one more opportunity.
We didn't ask her to bring it to the next meeting, we asked her just to give it to him.
So if we reach.
It was nothing, the next meeting had nothing to do with it, if she'd given him, she didn't have to be. Am I looking at that wrong? If I am, tell me,
I think her plan, the way she explained it to me when she called me on giving her the wrong date, was she was bringing everything to the next meeting and showing up to the next meeting. Craig, you told me the wrong date.
well, why wouldn't she have just gone ahead?
Well,
and
she may have thought that it had to. she
Some
had-
does, okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's where the conversation went with me.
I assure you, I'm wanting to help for them.
I know, I'm just,
Well, I'll make reach out to her tomorrow. Let's see if I can get her on and get her and talk to her about it. And see if she at least maybe meet me or somehow.
Email you or text you a picture of the
When
receipt.
did you think the meeting was?
Yeah, Craig, when did she?
Well, no, and how long did she know that it was wrong?
The next,
Yesterday or?
she called me today.
Next week, like
Okay.
you told me 3 days ago.
Did I tell you something?
Yeah.
See, sorry, y'all, I did it.
Then I started getting emails from Tommy. I was, dang, what a boy.
Okay.
Are you
Well, I mean,
I screwed it up. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not trying to rag on you. I'm just trying to see how much time between when she knew that was the wrong date. You know, did she just find that out today, last week? You know, that's all I was asking. You know, if she knew a week ago,
So is it reasonable for us to say, let's go ahead and reimburse her for the receipts that she presented and any of the other receipt that she, and because I know we can pull on Facebook what she said that other bill was like $500 or $800 more or something. So equal up to, if it ends up being any more than what she discussed on our last meeting's minutes, then we'll come back, but we go ahead and reimburse her, but have that document stating that the water board, and then we'd be done with this?
It's gonna be the standard going forward, 'cause you know what position I'm taking on this. I want documentation at the yin yang, and I want a set standard as next time this comes in front of us, because we are setting a precedent now. So we have a set standard that these conditions have to be met before you even consider this going forward.
Well, we do need, we need pictures, we need receipts and pictures, receipts. Before that, and then you need a signature, we need you to acquire a signature from her stating that she
The
did not.
the document actually is notarized.
that's fine.
It's a notary document.
Even better, needs to be.
Well, I'm going even beyond that. I'm talking, in this circumstance, it was on our side of the meter. Well, that'll be one, obviously, that there will be the first consideration, if it's on our side versus the other. She said that they called it, they didn't come in. Tommy's saying that's not true. And we talked about trying to put something in place to let all these plumbers know what the procedure is going forward as to how that's needs to be done. I'm just looking at it, I want to create basically the same things as the elements of the ground. There's a mens rea, these other elements. I'm trying to create elements that if you don't meet these elements, we're not paying you. Now, I know that seems a little bit scroogey, but I'm sitting on the water board and I'm looking at it from that perspective, trying to say, we need some kind of standard here that not everybody's rolling in here trying to get paid on claiming we did
Well, and I
something.
can
with the
also
problem.
see where if a comptroller walked in the door and wanted to see our records, why we pay this person this money, we need to justify
Right.
why we've done it. So we've done it with pictures, we've done it with receipts, and if she presents them.
But we do have established policy now that says not to pay them. Is that correct?
Well, that's what we've done.
Or that's been our policy. If
It's
it-
been a
I
working.
think that's been more the practice. I don't
A
think. it's
practice.
actually
Okay,
written
well,
policy.
that's
been
why
a
I asked.
practice.
It was a question. It
And
was a
that's why I'm
question.
saying we need to establish some kind of, whether it's in policy or at least what we're doing right now, what is it that we're looking at? She's got the bills, obviously show what it was. She's got damage to her house, but she had water backup and everything, and she's got it saying that it was on our side of the line, which we did have a collapsed line. So those to me are elements of what we're gonna look at going forward.
Agreed.
So could we not come back next month and try to establish some general criteria to put in our policy to go with this, but understanding that each situation is gonna be different, that we can establish whatever criteria we want, but there's gonna be something that comes in here that's outside the norm.
Well, that's why you, like even in criminal cases, if they create some kind of standard, or in tort law, they create some kind of standard, it's just a generality. It's gonna be on the fact specific for what comes in front of you, but it's still gonna have these certain elements that it has to go through before it even gets up to what they look at. And we can do it next month, but I would rather have us figure it out now and then pay her under that instead of saying we're gonna pay her and then figure it out later.
So instead of, and other than receipts, pictures, what would you recommend be added to the policy?
That any claim that their damages allows from our side of the line, but when there is some provable actual damage or some kind of stoppage on our side of the line that would have caused that.
Verifiable thing.
Right, some kind of, whether it's inspection, they created a report when they inspected saying our line collapsed, we had a plot, we had some kind of backup that would have backed up in their system. Something to show that there was a failure on our side that would have caused their problem.
My problem with just getting receipts. I'll get you a receipt for $10,000 tonight if you want one. For her problem. I'm, so. Excuse me, just a receipt that says, I mean, I'll go up there and give her a receipt for 800 and she can give me 4 when I want, not a receipt, a cancel check, some proof that it was actually paid. I guess, a cancel check or.
Being able to say that he's gonna be the one that always does the inspection, and he's always gonna find that the water department was not liable.
Well, it's not even up for him to determine whether it's liable. It's up to him his department to create an accurate report of what the issue was.
And I get that, but they can always find their accurate report, holds no liability with the water department. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I understand that, but their report should not even look at liability. They're not attorneys, they're not the insurance company. They shouldn't even look at liability. They should say, this line collapsed at this footage. This wasn't our fault. No, that's an opinion. The line collapse is a fact. Their opinion shouldn't even enter into it. That's what I'm saying. His opinion wasn't that he's liable. I'm just looking for some kind of verifiable fact that there was some kind of failure in our part of the line. And I understand maybe Tommy or the others are saying, well, it's not our fault. Well, that's your opinion. This collapse, is that true? Yes. Was there damage to her property? Yes. Could it have been caused by our line? Yes. Okay, so how can you say it wasn't our fault? I just want them to write down, just like Joe Friday, just the facts. What's the facts? Not their opinion.
He's fixing to solve this issue.
Oh, I agree.
With cleanouts, I mean, seriously.
I agree.
You're no longer gonna be left up to a plumber to tell you.
That's the only true way utilities have to know was a clean out. If the customer makes a complaint, we go out, open the clean out, no fluids in there, ain't on our side. That's like a water meter serves the same purpose. We don't do nothing past the meter, you got problems, that's yours, that's how you do, that's what a clean out does for our sewer service. Unfortunately, Hartsville.
One more time, Tommy. You open up the clean out.
You open up the clean out, if it's dry down in there, we ain't got a problem. But we don't have them to do that with. That's just a fact. They didn't put them in here for whatever
There's
reason.
no water in there. It's not our problem, right?
The new home.
The stoppage would be, water would be backed up in there. Okay. If it was backed up in our line. If you open that up, it'd spill out. If they run water, it'd spill out right there. There's something in to where we're tapped in.
Okay. Water couldn't be water couldn't be sitting right here at the cleanout.
And we've done that,
And then
the
you
people
can only
that,
see right here, and then somebody washed 3 loads of clothes.
it'll come out, yeah. And we've had that happen down here in town, where we do have some have cleanouts. We go open them, you know, the guy called, make a complaint, hey, there's nothing wrong here, it's dry, you know, there's nothing going through it. To get to us, so it's on your side. We don't have that privilege everywhere, guys, but we're gonna get there. It's part of one of these fixes.
But
we
it's
need
just,
to do.
it's a major, it's not 100%, but it's major. It's a major step.
And that clean out, if it is dirty there, or there's a problem, we run our equipment in there and clean it out. That's what's called cleanup for. You can run the thing in there and snake it out, clean it. That's how we would maintenance, and it's quick maintenance to get it fixed.
Or run a camera.
Now you gotta dig her up and put one in if you have a problem. So, you know, that's been a goal here anyway. We've just been focused on fire hydrants. We can't do everything at one time. But I've actually thought about hiring 2 college kids or something this year, put one guy with them and let them go around and start doing some of it. Start installing for, you know, somebody part-time for the summer or something like that.
All your new homes have a clean out within 2 feet of the house, but that doesn't help you down at the line. Like
You know, we put one on the property.
it would be a big help to have it down there.
And I plan on doing them, but I want to try to take a street at a time and start installing them if we can. And we get the hydrants done, that'll be our focus. We'll start doing some of that. full
Can we
time.
at least do this when we put a new tap in?
We do that.
Oh,
We do
okay,
that.
so we're doing it.
We do it now.
Okay.
New tap goes in, it's got it. That's standard. That's industry standard, that cleanout. That's your service.
That marks your.
It marks your
that marks where you
territory.
Stop.
So that's like Mr. Scholes said, we're doing the best we can because we don't have that distinction as we do on a meter. Water meter has a distinctive, you know, this is where we start, that's where you start. This is where we stop, that's what we have to take care of, that's what you have to take care of. We
So
don't
the
have that
clean
if we don't have that cleanout. And like I say, unfortunately, we just, every chance we get, we fix them, we put them in, that's every chance we get.
You've been in contact with her. Why don't you just call her back and tell her we were waiting on her to provide these things and we're sorry for the mix up on the time. And can you get this stuff to me and we'll see if we can, you know, we were all ready to help you. We just didn't have the stuff.
I would be glad about that.
I mean, I really feel like, you know, we try to get this form together that you're talking about for her to sign and before you know, and the question came up before, and I don't think was ever answered. Are we gonna give her a check or are we gonna give her credit on her bill? Because in times past, it's been there again, our past policy on some things, like where we have to give refunds to people to give them credit on their bill instead of money in hand. That needs to be answered too. I know what she's gonna want, I'm sure, and I tend to agree with her, but I don't want that to be at the last minute, somebody, well, I can't write her a check because it says, you know, so I think we need to. Like that,
We'll need a report on this one.
Yeah, I understand.
And if that account is still active or if it's inactive, those kind of things.
Yes.
If you'll include that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the mayor's right. Anything that happens will happen again. You know, you can't say, oh, this is a one-time thing and never happened again. No, it happened once, it will happen again, so we need to address it best we can.
Mayor Dill, am I correct? Does the comptroller office prefer you to do credit versus check, or do they not care either way?
I've not heard him say either one.
I think just documentation is what they require,
Okay.
why you did what you did.
This may have come up on some other things where we charged people and decided we were gonna give them their money back, and we said we can't give them their money back, we had to give them credit, or I don't remember that.
Well, that came up with an issue down here at the sheriff's department where we found out there was actually more buildings on their meter than what we thought it was, and they ended up getting a credit. They didn't get a check, they got credit. So I would prefer doing what we've done in past and issue credit on the account. I know that's not check money like you would like, but As long
Well,
as you don't have to spend
that
going
was a little
forward.
bit different circumstance though. They were overcharged by us, or by the water department. This is money that we've never charged or anything. I mean, this is her personal money. This
This
is
is a
reimbursement.
reimbursement.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different.
Okay, I just didn't want that to be
I'm-
a last minute problem.
I feel like we should just give her the money.
I do
And
too.
then and then you one-time bookkeeping,
If she can document.
Yeah, if she did not. do it. I'll reach out.
yeah, Craig.
I do apologize.
You bothered me.
I do.
Well, no, I mean, nobody beat you up about that. I mean, people ask you and you got it in your head and I do it all the time, you know.
I remember exactly where I was when I said it. I mean, and I had it in my mind. I don't know when it stuck.
That's
I
like
forget it
even,
tomorrow.
you know, even Rita, we had a 6 o'clock meeting the other night. She come walking in about 6:30. I thought it was at 7. No, it's at 6, you know, I mean, we all are. That wasn't for one person, and I never got to do it.
Uh,
No,
any other comments? Board member comments?
I've got one. And it's gonna be a long one, sorry.
all right.
We have been talking to the Greater Nashville Regional Council, going back and forth with them for about a year to do a strategic plan for the county. So I think it's a 5-year strategic plan going forward as to what our priorities are gonna be as a county going forward. They got back to me earlier today. They've been talking to USDA about using some funds they have available to help pay for that strategic planning process. They are going to be able to use $15,000 from USDA grant to offset some of that cost, which will leave us having to cover about $26,420. Unbeknownst to me, before they sent me this today, part of that strategic planning I didn't know about before is going to include assistance for local capital improvement planning, which will include the water department. So I've talked to Tommy a little bit before the meeting. I tried to get it with him earlier today, but wasn't able to ask, since it's going to include the water utility, would the water utility be okay with putting forward some money to help pay for those expenses for that planning process to hire the Greater Nashville Regional Council to do this? And I threw out $5,000. Tommy had talked about trying to get some kind of estimate of what they thought the time would be for water utility specific stuff, to base it on that. So that'd be something I can go back and forth with them. But my initial thought is that something the board would be okay with, since it is going to include the water utility instead of the county paying for all of it? We get some kind of contribution from the water utility since it is going to include our capital needs. And the reason, and I'm not going to wait till the next budget year to look at this. And the reason is the American Recovery Plan included some money that we are going to get as a county and as Hartsville, even though it technically no longer exists as a standalone government. The county is scheduled to receive about $1.9 million and Hartsville is scheduled to receive about $3 million. Now, this is estimates as of now. Once the treasurer gets their things in line, we'll know more. Part of that, some of the examples they gave for expenditures that can be covered says making necessary investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. I attended a webinar earlier today done by Retail Strategies, which is working with the Industrial Development Board for retail development. And they have a representative from the National League of Cities, who's one of the main lobbying groups that got this Congress to put this in here. And they highly, highly, highly recommended we go ahead and do a planning process to know what we're going to use those funds for, because they think it's going to be required, whether it's for the federal government or states come in and require you to do something. And so I'm looking at this as not just a capital improvement planning for us looking going forward, but also part of our planning to use this money for the American Recovery Fund or the American Recovery Plan going forward as well. So I would just ask if the board could contribute some money to that, or give Tommy the authority, since it should be under his $10,000 spending limit. If the board's okay with using some of those funds to do this plan.
What was the total outlay on that again?
For Hartsville, it's 3.0.
That's not on the plan.
Our cost.
26.4.
It was 41,000 something. USDA is going to put in 15,000. That leaves the county should have to cover 26,420. So if the water utility could cover, I threw out 5,000. It's just a number I pulled out of the air.
And we're gonna get a piece of that.
Yes, you're
Piece
going
of
to.
that pie from the, potentially a piece
Well,
of that.
part of the-
$4 million pie.
Big one.
Depend, yeah.
Do we get,
What
Do we get
I can't
20%?
tell you, right now, I can't tell you what it's gonna go for, because there's also small business things we can do, we could use it to create an entrepreneur center, there's lots of things we could use for it. However, if we're gonna do capital improvements, we need to have some kind of plan in place, which we were gonna try to do on the county level anyway.
Okay, That's for a motion.
I'm gonna ask for a motion, but I'm gonna ask for this free ride.
Hey,
first.
yeah.
Well, you can ask, but I can't guarantee.
I'm just playing.
On the list, Mayor.
I would suggest maybe that we look at the odd amount of $6,400 and that leaves, and, you know, kind of cleans it up and we're back to
Well,
$20,000.
this is just gonna be a part of what we're looking at. As I said, there's a lot of other different things. You can do grants to small businesses that have had losses that could be shown to COVID-19. There's a myriad of different things we could look at it, but until we get Treasury writing our guidelines is what they are, we don't know yet, but
Save my spending limit.
they threw out some ideas and I'm
Not
gonna
to
look
exceed your speeding limit.
limit.
So if we make the motion to put $6,400 in it and give him permission for the $6,400 as a first motion to be the match money going towards this USDA loan of $41,000 for the capital improvements of Trousdale County and Hartsville.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
I'm not gonna pose my idea.
We just expect about 20% or whatever money comes in, or 20% contribution.
Well, sometimes expectations fail, so.
I think that's awesome. Thank you for bringing that to our attention and
Seriously, based on what we know that they've told us, it can be used for.
Well, my initial thought is, I'm looking at the sewer side, because Tommy and I have been talking about I&I since I've been in office. And we know from the last 2017 TDEC study, almost 60% of the flow going through our sewer plant is rainwater getting in our system. So if we can reduce that that water getting into our system, that is a great improvement. It takes a lot of stress off our sewer plant, which coincidentally gives us capacity back to help us recruit projects out at Tennessee's the PowerCom Park, because we're kind of skirting up against some of our capacity limits on that. So it is an economic development project in addition to a community development project. So it helps us on the water utility, but also help us recruit some businesses here because it gives us back some of the capacity on our plant.
I make a motion to adjourn.
all right. Second.
That's what-
Reason why I won't be heard. That's what they will want to talk to.
I haven't met her, but I met her once one day when I popped by. So,
Yeah, that's kind of funny that that's. Look at that angle.
You got all that?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Clean it up.
Yeah.